More wood ash does not mean more fruit. In fact, in a lot of gardens, it means fewer tomatoes, weaker greens, and soil that takes years to rebalance. I've watched experienced growers sabotage perfectly good beds because they assumed that if a little free potash is good, more must be better. That assumption is the potash paradox, and it's one of the fastest ways to push your soil past its productive range. If you're growing food seriously and care about consistent yields, subscribe to the channel now. On Farm Logic, we test this stuff in real beds, not just on paper, and we talk about what actually happens after a few seasons, not just the first week. Let's start with what wood ash really does to your soil. Wood ash is often described as a potassium fertilizer, and technically that's true. It contains soluble potassium, usually in the range of 5 to 7% depending on the wood source. But what matters more is that it behaves like a liming material. Its pH is typically between 10 and 12. When you add it to soil, you are not just feeding potassium, you are actively raising pH. That's where the paradox begins. Plants need potassium. It regulates water movement, supports enzyme function, and improves fruit quality. But plants also need the right pH to access all the other nutrients. When you oversupply wood ash chasing potassium, you often create a pH environment that reduces availability of iron, manganese, zinc, and even phosphorus. So, I tested this in a 4x8 raised bed, growing tomatoes and basil. The starting pH was 6.6. Potassium levels were moderate, but not deficient. I applied about 3 pounds of sifted hardwood ash over the entire 32 square feet in late fall, thinking I'd boost fruiting the following year. By mid-spring, soil tests showed pH at 7.5. Potassium had increased, but so had calcium levels, significantly. By early summer, new tomato growth showed mild iron chlorosis. Yields were not higher. In fact, they were slightly lower than the control bed that received no ash. More potassium did not equal more production. It actually shifted the system out of balance. Now let's talk about what happens in in-ground backyard gardens. If your native soil is naturally acidic, say 5.5 to 6.0, wood ash can absolutely help. I've used it strategically in a 500 square foot plot that tested at 5.8 pH. I applied roughly 10 pounds of ash across that area, lightly incorporated into the top 3 inches before winter. That moved pH to about 6.3 by spring. In that case, brassicas performed better, and overall nutrient availability improved. But here's the critical point. I stopped there. I didn't reapply the next year because the soil was already in range. Many gardeners treat ash as an annual ritual. Fireplace gets cleaned out, ash goes on the garden. That habit ignores cumulative impact. If you apply even 5 pounds per 100 square feet every year without testing, you can gradually push soil above 7.5 within a few seasons. Once you're there, correcting downward is slow and honestly pretty frustrating. And raised beds are even less forgiving. A 4x4 bed that's 12 inches deep holds about 16 cubic feet of soil. That limited volume means every amendment has a stronger effect. I've seen growers dump half a 5-gallon bucket of ash into a single bed because they heard it was good for tomatoes. That's not a fertilizer application. That's a pH overhaul. In one test bed that received repeated heavy ash inputs for 3 consecutive winters, pH reached 8.0. Spinach struggled. Beans showed manganese deficiency symptoms. Compost additions did not fix the issue because the underlying alkalinity remained. It took 3 seasons of avoiding alkaline inputs and adding slightly acidic organic matter to bring pH back into the high 6s. Now let's address the idea that wood ash is a balanced natural amendment. It isn't balanced. It's high in potassium and calcium, but very low in nitrogen. When gardeners rely on ash as a fertility boost, they often ignore nitrogen management. I've seen beds where ash was applied heavily, but nitrogen was insufficient. Plants grew stiff and pale, with decent stem strength from calcium, but poor vegetative growth. The grower thought they needed more ash. What they actually needed was compost or a nitrogen source. The paradox is that chasing one nutrient can create multiple deficiencies. There's also the salt factor that experienced growers need to pay attention to. Wood ash contains soluble salts. In sandy soils, those salts can leach, sometimes taking nutrients with them. In heavier soils or raised beds with limited drainage, salts can accumulate. I measured elevated electrical conductivity in a bed after 2 heavy ash applications. Germination rates for carrots dropped noticeably. That wasn't a pest issue. It was osmotic stress from excess salts. Now, let's bring hydroponics into this conversation because it highlights the contrast clearly. In hydroponic systems, potassium is supplied in controlled forms like potassium nitrate or potassium sulfate. pH is tightly managed between 5.5 and 6.5. I experimented once with a filtered ash extract as a potassium supplement. The result was immediate instability. pH shot above 8. Electrical conductivity spiked unpredictably. Mineral composition varied depending on the burn source. In a hydro system, that level of variability is unacceptable. So if ash is unpredictable in hydro, why assume it's automatically safe in soil? Soil does buffer changes better than water, but that buffering has limits. Once you cross into alkaline territory, nutrient chemistry changes in ways that compost alone won't instantly fix. Another overlooked issue is magnesium balance. High calcium inputs from ash can skew the calcium to magnesium ratio in soil. In one of my test beds, repeated ash applications increased calcium significantly, while magnesium stayed moderate. The soil structure tightened slightly, and water infiltration slowed. It wasn't dramatic, but over time these subtle shifts add up. So how do you use wood ash intelligently? First, only apply it if a soil test shows your pH is below optimal range. For most vegetables, that's below about 6.2. Second, calculate your rate carefully. For many garden soils, 5 to 10 pounds per 1,000 square feet will raise pH modestly. In a small 100 square foot bed, that's roughly half a pound to 1 pound, not a full bucket. Third, apply it in the off-season and incorporate it lightly into the top few inches. Let natural moisture integrate it gradually. Avoid top dressing around active crops, where it can burn roots or spike pH too quickly in the rhizosphere. And finally, retest the following season. The paradox only becomes a problem when you assume instead of measure. Potassium absolutely matters. Fruit development, disease resistance, water regulation, all depend on it. But in soil systems, nutrients interact. When you add more of one element, you influence availability of others. The goal isn't maximizing one number on a soil test. The goal is maintaining balance. The most productive beds I've managed over the years weren't the ones with the most inputs. They were the ones where amendments were deliberate and restrained. Once pH was in the 6.5 to 6.8 range, I focused on compost quality, consistent irrigation, and crop rotation. Yield stabilized. Deficiency symptoms dropped. There was no need to chase potassium every season. That's the real lesson behind the potash paradox. More isn't better. Balanced is better. If this helped you rethink how you're using wood ash, subscribe to the channel and share this with another serious gardener. Growing better food starts with understanding the system beneath your feet. Practical knowledge beats free inputs every time.